Jonathan, thanks for coming on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, do I detect a bit of an accent there, Jonathan?
People say I have an accent, but even French Canadians say I have a different accent. So yeah, I'm more Anglophone, but yeah, I live in Quebec.
Yeah. Now, yeah, is Jonathan your first or your last name?
No, my first name.
Now you're in the Quebec area. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
You're my first.
I'm in the Montreal area.
Cool. My wife has always wanted to go there. She loves the idea of Montreal because she's a bit of a Europhile, and that's the closest she can get. Now, what are you actually talking about? Just for people that aren't familiar with the area.
It's pretty much north of Quebec, it's a little bit past near Mont Tremblant. It's called La Minerve area, near two actually nature reserves, but it's all big foresty land and mountains up there. And actually, back in the 80s when this happened, it was even more remote. Like I remember where we drove off the main road. It took us about 40 minutes driving off the main road on a really crappy road to get to the cabin, which was like a mini hike to get to the cabin. So it was a very remote area, and it's like dotted with lakes everywhere.
So let's get into the first one. You had a pretty harrowing experience, which was your first experience, right? Do you want to walk us into that?
Yeah, sure. Basically, we had a cabin, and I don't know if I can really paint the picture too well because I'm not that good of a storyteller, but this cabin was half on the water and half on. It was like on stilts, if you will, big wooden beams. But it was also half on a hill, which you had to get down to get to the cabin, which was by a big shore next to a swamp, overlooking the lake. Pardon me. So, and actually in the back area of that, like while you're walking down the hill, there's a round window at the top of the cabin. I don't know if you can picture, it's a very basic cabin, pointed top, but pretty much almost at the point of it, there's about a 1 foot in diameter window. A round window, not a square one. That's actually pretty key to the story. And I was sleeping in there that night, and I've slept there many nights, like before when I was even younger. Like I was like 1 year old when we were going up there. But I was about 5 or 6, actually about 5 when this happened. And I was looking out every night I used to look out that window because either the moon like really lights up the sky, and I would just look out the window and fall asleep. Or it'd be like overcast, and I would see there was like a little fern tree outside, and it would just like watch the top of this tree sway in the bushes. Now, in the cabin, that window is about 10 feet off the ground, off the actual ground of the cabin. Now, outside, you can't even get to the window because of the fact that you're on a hill coming down on the side of the cabin. That thing's in the middle of the cabin. You're pretty much going off the ground maybe another 5 feet plus that 10 feet.
Right.
So it's either they're standing there or leaning off of the hill, which is like another maybe 12 feet off the ground. So I was sleeping in there that night.
How old were you?
Sorry?
How old were you right at this time?
About 5, 6.
Okay.
I would say, because I was old enough to, communicate my emotions. Because I remember my mother even telling me the story afterwards. She goes, yeah, I remember that. Da, 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 da. And I even asked her, I'm like, how old was I around? Because I remember this vividly, because it's still, to this day, I will not sleep with a window that's like overlooking the outside without the shades down. No way. And basically, I was sleeping in that room and looking out that same window, and ironically enough, I was noticing, I'm like, hey, it's very dark, because there was no moon, there was no light, there was no nothing, there was no tree even. It was just black. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Just looking out the window. And literally 5 seconds later, as I'm just contemplating, looking at it, lying in bed, because there was 2 beds facing that window, like basically the back to the living room area of the cabin, and basically 2 eyes just pop up from the bottom of that window all the way up to the nose and just start looking around in the inside of the cabin. And the head, like I said, it was about 1 foot in diameter, round. The whole thing covered the window, and it was just up to the nose. And basically, like, I don't know if you can picture like Harry and the Hendersons,
Right.
but without like those like pitiful eyes like that Harry does.
I hate that.
Like more like a uniform brow, but almost the same eyes, just big pupils. I remember big pupils, like big black pupils, but I still saw white in the eyes. And the nose was almost the same exact thing like Harry and the Hendersons, just not without that big flat forehead. It was more hairy, I would say, because all I saw was black. But I mostly focused on the eyes because it was just like darting around the room, like just basically, let me look around. And that's when I just stopped breathing. I was like, holy shit, like I even remember stopping breathing completely, holding still, and like inhuman like motion, sliding out of the bed without even moving the covers and crawling army style to my mother. And she even said, she goes, you were blue when you came to me. Because I remember the entire time I held my breath from when I saw this thing's eyes to when I got to my mother, that army style, and just grabbed her leg. She got scared shitless. And I exhaled. I'm like, there's something outside. So my dad, him like, and my dad was there with, we had also a couple. It's his best friend Mario and his girlfriend Christina, which was also, ironically enough, my mother's best friend. And these guys were, tough guys and pranksters as well. But at the same time, they crap their pants up there too. So my dad takes the axe and goes outside, and then he comes back like 5 seconds later, and he's like, "Hey, Mario, I think there's something in the woods." So, and like, at first my mother thinks it's another joke. So Mario, they had a baseball bat over up there. Like, he didn't have any other weapons. So my dad had the axe. He grabs a baseball bat and they go outside. And about like 5 minutes later, they come back and they're like, "Oh, well, something ran off into the woods, and we're going to go back outside and check it out." By that time, they weren't scared anymore because whatever it was ran off, and they started banging on the outside of the cabin to trick us. But they were pretty shit. They were crapping their pants because they didn't sleep all night. And pretty much the next day, because we were staying there 2 days, like I said, my dad was up there with their best friend, Mario, and they're pranksters. They went across the lake and stole a canoe. And amongst other items, but I remember the canoe specifically. And they brought it back. And they're like, "Oh, at night, we're going to go on the lake with the canoe so nobody sees us." So at that same night, the next night, because they totally forgot about the face and the eyes, this, that, and the other. But the next night, they took the canoe, and they're like, "Okay, let's go." It was really late at night. I remember full moon. And they started going onto the water, like, "Okay, we're going to get the life jackets, this, that, and the other." And as my mother's getting the life jackets, they took the canoe, both of them, jumped in it, and paddled out, well, pretty far out. And we're laughing, they're like, now you guys are stuck on the shore, blah, 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 in the middle of the woods, this, that, and the other, playing a little joke. And then they started like joking around, "Oh, there's a wolf behind you, there's a bear behind you." And my mom starts freaking out. And she's like holding, like you would hold a child, like in your arms. But so basically my face is over her shoulder. And I'm looking behind and I'm like, "Mom, there's nothing behind you, like they're just joking. They're just joking, Ma, calm down, And then like Mario and my dad both get super serious. And they're like, "Oh, okay, Jazz, come to the shore, and they start paddling like really fast towards the shore. And now, like, my mother starts panicking even more because she sees my father's like very serious, She's like, "Robert, what's behind me?" He's like, "Jazz, there's something behind you. Just like, just stay right there, and we're coming." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So like, as they're saying this, my mom starts like freaking out and screaming a little bit, and like I said, my face is facing the tree line. Pretty much the tree line started, like, how you would like kick a tree and it would like bend and snap back.
Yeah.
Well, it did that with like multiple trees. And it was like almost the whole tree line on the embankment, just whoosh. And I just dug my face into my mother's neck. They hopped into the canoe and paddled into the middle of the river, and they waited basically till there was daylight. and we paddled right back. So that was my 2-day experience up there. That was like pretty much the most frightened I've ever been in my entire life. And I've slept in nunneries, abandoned nunneries. I've gone to monasteries in the middle of the woods, weird places to see ghosts and stuff. And by far, this was the scariest experience I've ever had. It's those eyes. Like, I don't know. But you know what? It wasn't scary in a sense. Like, I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like it was malicious in any way. Just that I was young at the time and it freaked me out. And to this day, like I said, I will not sleep or be in a house with an open window towards the woods or outside. There has to be blinds.
Right, I hear them all the time. They're peeking in windows and stuff, and I think that's more of a curiosity thing than a malicious thing, because obviously, you know, they know you're there, and if they were being malicious, they would just come through the front door, you know?
Tell you the honest truth, the way it looked, I don't think it knew I was there, because like I said, I was about 5-6 years old, so I took like a tiny portion of the bed, but it knew I was there after I slipped out of the bed for sure. But at the same time, like the way it was darting around, it just looked curious, and it just didn't seem like it knew I was there.
Yeah, it probably knew there were people there because it saw activity that day, and it was just to check it out or something.
Oh yeah, in the living room area, there was huge bay windows, like overlooking the lake. Like anybody, even outside, can just see right in. So it could have just easily seen everybody was gathered in the living room, and just not seen me. Nice. But it still scared the bejesus out of me.
Is the cabin still there? Do you guys still go up there?
No, it's actually demolished now because they sold. My grandparents used to have it, and that's why my father used to go up there. I lost touch with my father years ago too, but they had sold the cabin about 11 years ago, and about 8 years ago it got demolished for basically a newer style cabin, because it was a really old cabin. Like it was a wooden style cabin with beams inside. It only had 2 rooms: the living room, kitchen area, and that room area with the 2 entrances with that window.
Huh.
But a lot of activity has happened up there, because like literally, I think it was a year later, with my father, I was sleeping in the back seat, and he was with his buddy Mario. We were coming back because I refused to sleep up there. Like I would pull tantrums. Like even I even remember I was about 9 years old, and they were saying, "Oh, we're gonna go up there, sleep for the weekend." And I remember bawling my eyes out, telling them, "I'm not sleeping up there. I'll sleep in the car." I told them. And then we just never slept there. So we would even come back at like 2:00 in the morning. So it was one of those nights where we would come back at 2:00 in the morning, and Mario was in the passenger seat, and me, I was sleeping. So I'm just recounting what they had told me and what I heard right there. And he apparently started rolling down the window, because it was it's a very tight road, you know, and he was like sticking his hand out the window and grabbing leaves and throwing it at my dad while he was driving, you know, jerking off. And at one point, my dad started fucking panicking, telling him, roll the fucking window up, and he started grabbing him and pulling the thing and started gunning it. But like he swerved, and that's when I woke up. I woke up when my dad swerved and started booting it. And now these roads, nobody goes like more than 40-45 kilometers per hour, because it's up and down. Like if another car's coming up, you will not see it. So most people go about 45 kilometers. My dad was pushing about 80 kilometers per hour down this dirt road almost immediately, and started flipping out. And Mario was like, hey, what's going on? He's like, you didn't fucking see it? You didn't fucking see it? He's like, it was a guy. Go pick him up. And my dad's like, are you fucking retarded? He's like, a guy in the middle of fucking woods? He goes, that big, holding out his hand, like to grab you? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, he was fucking leaning out of the road, like as almost like to give you like a high five or grab you. He goes, you didn't see the fucking hair? He's like, no, you're crazy. It's a guy. It was a guy. Go back and pick him up. He's like, you're fucked. Go walk back and you fucking pick him up on your back. So Mario's like, are you serious now, Robert? He's like, I'm fucking serious. We're not fucking coming here. It took my dad about 4 years to go back up there, but he used to bring, because my father and my mother divorced. So he used to bring his girlfriends up there for the day. But he never slept back up there ever since that day.
So he's the only person that actually saw the person or supposed
That's
person.
exactly. Well, I saw its face there. He saw it standing by the road. Like apparently it was by the tree line. Like it just popped out like and was like just standing like like a hitchhiker is like gonna give you the thumb, but like it just held out its hand as Mario was holding out his hand, I guess.
Yeah.
Like almost to give him like a high five type of thing, but nobody's in the middle of those woods. And it wasn't hunting season because we wouldn't have just been up there.
Wow.
That and even this, like, I was about 13 years old. So one day my dad goes up there with one of his girlfriends that he was dating for a while and brings me along. Again, not to sleep there because both of us refused to sleep there. Even her, she found it weird. But anyways, this is during the day now. And I'm a little older. So, I'm about 13 years old. So I know a little bit, like, okay, this sound is this is that, so I don't get spooked too easy. So, like I said, there was a swamp around the corner, like about 100 yards, if you can picture it, off the shore, like right next to the cabin. So he's telling me, oh, I'll go play outside, Obviously, like now I'm older, like I know what that meant, like it's for him to be alone with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I went out, and by that swamp, I knew that there's big bullfrogs. And a couple of times I've seen deer, I've seen moose, even, and like I like nature, so I would just observe them. So I wanted to go catch some frogs. So I was there by the swamp, 100 yards away, and there's like a tree line across. And we have neighbors by this cabin, but they're pretty far off, and they were very rarely up there, and they have a golden retriever. So, I'm there, I had like about 5 frogs with me. Then I hear like a whistle, like somebody calling a dog, like I don't want to do it over the phone because basically it's going to sound distorted, but like how somebody would call a dog.
Yeah.
So I looked over, I'm like, oh, the guy's here. Oh, okay. So I kept on with my frogs, and then I hear the whistle again. So I'm looking up, I'm like, oh, it's closer. So, and the golden retriever used to jump in this swamp / lake. So, I'm expecting the dog to dart out of the bush and jump into the water. So I'm waiting and waiting. So no whistle came. So I whistled the same whistle back, and it whistled again. So I was like, oh, that's a little bit peculiar, but I didn't want to freak out. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to take, the 2 frogs that are left here because the other one started like running away. And I took the 2 frogs. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to start walking back. So I didn't even run back. I started like walking slowly. And as soon as I turned around, it whistled again. And as I'm turned around, I can see the neighbor's cabin area where they usually park. There's no car. So I'm like, could they be gone and the dog is loose or whatever? Anyways, I'm not going to panic still. So I just walked slowly back to the cabin. My dad was extremely annoyed when I knocked on the door for obvious reasons. And I told him, look, I want to leave, this, that, and the other. Or there's something whistling in the woods. And he's like, it's the neighbor. So I'm like, oh, but like the dog is not there. And he's like, yeah, it's the dog. It's out there. Just go outside, I'm like, well, look, the car's not there. He's like, yeah, the car's there. And he looked outside and he's like, the car's not there. Okay, so he's like, well, look, it's probably he's walking his dog and the wife took the car, this and that. Don't worry, just go back out. I'm like, look, I'm not going back out. I'm staying right here. There's something whistling in the woods. And he's like, okay. So he went out. He went outside and walked all the way to the swamp and started whistling. And he came back and he's like, look, there's nothing whistling. I'm like, look, across the swamp, something was whistling, like as if to call a dog, like just 2 sharp whistles. And he's like, well, I didn't hear that, this, that, and the other. So then he went outside again, a little bit frustrated, lit a cigarette, this, that, and the other, started throwing rocks into the river, this, that, and the other. And then we watched him from the window stop, look over to his right shoulder, look back at the cabin, come back right back in, and literally grab his keys. Okay, we're leaving, guys. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. I'm like, but why are we leaving? He's like, because we're just leaving. We're done here. We're just going to go back. I'm like, oh, okay. And we ended up leaving. So I asked him during the ride home, like, you heard the whistle, eh? And he's like, no, I didn't hear nothing. I know, guaranteed he heard that whistle.
And you're, what, 15 years old at this point?
No, I was 13 then.
Right.
But I haven't gone back up there. Like I said, it was about 10 years ago they sold it there, or 11 years ago they sold it. And to tell the honest truth, like, my wife asked me as a joke, like, oh, let's take a drive there. And I'm like, and do what? And she's like, well, we can just camp there. I go, you're fucking nuts. Yeah. She goes, but you go anywhere else? I go, yeah, not there. She's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Like, it's embedded in my brain. Although I didn't feel threatened, I'm just not, I don't know. I'm hesitant. And not for anything, but oh man, the force to push all those trees. Like, yeah. when they were by that shore, I'm sorry, but there's no way. Like, at the time, I was like, oh, it might be an animal, because I was young. You know, I don't know better. I don't know what's out there. This, that, and the other. Now that I'm older, I'm like, nah, that was like the whole tree line just went whoosh. It could have been even 2 or 3. I don't even know. But they saw something moving around there. I didn't see it because I wasn't really looking, because I was looking at my father in the canoe. But when I looked at that tree line move, oh.
Maybe that's...
But I'm not afraid usually. Like, I go to Algonquin. I go to these places. It's just that area, or that style area, like, there's a vibe of that area. I don't know how to even put it. But when I get that vibe, no, I don't. No, I turn tail if I'm alone.
So, what other experiences have you had since?
Since, not much, and I've actively really gone out, but nothing too. Right. But anything recently, no. Other than a couple of whistles, which my dog was completely freaked out of. And she doesn't usually, like, her commands are whistles from humans, like any human. Like, you can whistle at my dog and she'll come to you. And those whistles she does not want to go to. And we were in Algonquin near that, actually those 2 videos that I had posted, we were near there, and basically we were walking around. I didn't hear nothing, which was kind of odd. No, but it's nighttime, so maybe, less activity, but usually there's some sound, and there was nothing sounds, and there was like a whistle, and I was like, okay, that's odd, because I'm about 2.5 hours away from the trail. Because pretty much there's a trail on the, I would say, the east end of Algonquin. It's not really Algonquin Park, it's just the tree line. And I went in through there, and there's a little trail, and I went up 2 hours into the bush. And that's where I found those 2 spots. And, whistling. So I'm like, hey, well, it's about 9:30 at night, middle of nowhere. Okay, maybe it's somebody else walking the dog. So I was like, hello? Nothing. So I'm like, well, just to let you know, I have a knife and I have a machete. So if you're a person, just be warned, don't jump out of anywhere. I said it pretty loud, too. And all I got back was the whistle. And actually, it was 2 consecutive whistles. So I was like, okay, that's either human, because it was like, like almost like an answer, because the first one was a 1, and the second one was a 2. So I'm like, okay, but then my dog was literally like just growling and was walking behind me, just standing like behind my legs, like she was scared shitless. And I'm like, what's wrong, Bailey? And she started walking the other way on the trail. And she doesn't usually leave my side. So I was like, Bailey, is something wrong? And she just kept walking and kept on growling with her tail tucked in. So I'm like, okay, time for me to leave. And not kidding you, I think it took me less than 2.5 hours to get out of there.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. That's the only hair-raising experience that I had recently, and that was like, 6 months ago?
Yeah, I've heard of the whistling thing, though. They do that. I've heard of that down in Oklahoma. They all seem to do that.
So I can't really say 100%, it was a Bigfoot, but my dog doesn't get freaked out too easily, and neither do I realistically. But we were both freaked out, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go, man, Jonathan, and I hope you come on the expedition.
No problem, and thanks for having me.
All right, Jonathan, thanks for coming on. See you soon.
Have a good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.